Welcome back, everybody. It's Tuesday, January 20th, 2026. First, a little housekeeping. Yesterday, we wished Dolly Parton a happy 79th birthday. But this was incorrect, as the country music legend celebrated her 80th. Now, Dolly would probably tell us that we should pay more attention to when a woman's birthday is, rather than how old she is. And we agree. Closer to home, today is the birthday of Demopolis' Robert Harwell Henley in 1843. If that name doesn't ring a bell, perhaps it should. Mr. Henley was the very first mayor of the city of Birmingham, serving from 1871 to 1872. He was the editor of what became the Birmingham Sun, and in addition to serving as the chief executive of the city, he was also its police chief, judge, and city council. He looked to be at the beginning of a lightning political career until he contracted tuberculosis a year into his term. He left for Florida to recover, but died from the disease in 1873 at the age of 30. His headstone in Oak Hill Cemetery reads, helpfully, "Here lies the first mayor of Birmingham." Today, we'll sort through the continuing fallout from President Donald Trump's endorsement of Representative Barry Moore in the Alabama Senate race. A police chief is speaking out about the effect of social media posts on law enforcement, and a change is coming to schools at lunchtime. I'm Bill Thornton, filling in for the vacationing Ike Morgan, who's probably having his picture taken in front of the pyramids right now. We're down in Alabama. Listeners yesterday will remember we let you know about President Trump's endorsement of Barry Moore for the Senate seat currently occupied by gubernatorial candidate Tommy Tuberville. Trump's nod to the congressman from Enterprise promises to liven up a race that seemed stagnant. AL.com's Mike Kaysen reports that according to some observers, the endorsement could tip the balances heavily in favor of Moore. Steve Flowers, an author, former state lawmaker, and columnist, called it a major development that has changed the landscape. Other observers agree, as Moore can probably count on money flowing in his direction from Republican coffers on the strength of Trump's nod. For his part, Attorney General Steve Marshall, viewed as Moore's main opponent and the current frontrunner, said Sunday he isn't backing down. And not everyone feels Trump's endorsement makes this a done deal. The Republican primary, after all, isn't until May 19th. And though Alabama is a deeply red state where Trump is loved by many, his endorsement hasn't always spelled victory. Jess Brown, retired political science professor at Athens State University, said Trump endorsed Luther Strange in the 2017 Republican primary for U.S. Senate, only to see him lose to former Alabama Chief Justice Roy Moore. Trump then endorsed Moore against Doug Jones, only to watch him go down to defeat that same year. In 2022, Trump endorsed Mo Brooks, but later pulled that and backed Katie Britt. Stay tuned as the campaign heats up. Hackleburg Police Chief Kenny Hallmark said Monday that he wants state legislators to consider a law prohibiting social media users from making public posts about crimes or investigations that are unverifiable and intentionally filled with misinformation. According to him, all they do is spread fear and make the job of law enforcement that much harder. "We love people sharing information, and it helps keep our community safe if factual," Hallmark said. "If unfactual, and you do have the opportunity to change that post but fail to do so, you are guilty of spreading fear and panic in the community. We are totally against that." According to AL.com's John Sharp, Chief Hallmark says he supports the First Amendment protections on free speech, but he feels there should be consequences for those who spread falsities. His comments stemmed from a situation on Friday where a series of incidences occurring at the same time were identified on social media as a threat to Hackleburg School. Hallmark said there were attempts to contact the person who made the social media post, but they proved unsuccessful. Calls for legislation like this aren't new and reflect some of the pitfalls of information sharing in the social media age. But First Amendment activists say knowing where to draw the line and what standards to apply will be harder than you think. As with everything else in life, we all could use a little discernment in what we pay attention to. A change in federal policy last week means whole milk will be returning to school lunchrooms. AL.com's hardworking John Sharp writes that President Trump signed into law a directive for whole milk to become available after it was curbed back in 2012 to cut down on child obesity. This new directive also allows schools to serve non-dairy milk that meets the nutritional standards of milk, and also requires schools to offer a non-dairy milk alternative if children provide a note from their parents stating that they have a dietary restriction. The change is expected to mainly impact the 30 million children that are enrolled in the National School Lunch Program. Now, experts say kids who drink whole milk are less likely to develop childhood obesity, though some of the Obama-era lunch changes were credited with stemming obesity among kids. At the same time, the U.S. Department of Agriculture's 2025 to 2030 dietary guidelines for Americans, issued this month, advise consuming healthy fats in, among other things, whole foods such as meats, poultry, eggs, omega-3 rich seafood, nuts, seeds, full-fat dairy, olives, and avocados. Gee, reading this is making me hungry. Which means it's probably a good time to wrap this up. So thanks for listening. You can read about these stories and many more at AL.com.